What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tirfon Orbital. We have arrived. The moment you have been waiting for. It is finally time for the Odin's Wrath from Jawas Junkyard demo video. I know you've all been waiting for it. I don't blame you. So all kidding aside, I'm super happy and proud of how this install came out, right? I would like to talk a little bit about the hilt. I do want to talk about my process and what I did to the hilt. I want to talk about my adventures in veneer application. And I also, obviously, we're going to do a demo, right? So this is an Old Republic themed hilt. I am not very schooled in the Old Republic. I'm the first to admit that I just don't know a lot about that lore, but I do know the aesthetic of Old Republic hilts, and I do really appreciate the look of this hilt. So once again, with this install, I think it's probably high time that I get one of these in my own collection. So I may or may not be having my own on the way, and I'm looking forward to that. I really fell in love with the look of this hilt during this install, right? Not only do we have real wood veneer on the grip, but I did want to utilize some shine through for the gems and greeblies that are on the grip of this hilt. And I did have to switch things up a little bit to achieve that. And I would like to talk about that as well when we go up top and talk about the hilt, right? So, but before we do all that, let's get into Fusion and talk about the chassis. Here's the chassis that I designed for this install. So this is a long chassis. I mean, it's a very long grip, right? So I wanted to utilize, on the grip itself, we've got two gems. There's like a blue, I guess it's a gem really, a gem or a greebly. There's a yellow, like orb looking gem, and there's also a blue greebly along the side. So in this larger hole, I've got a single neopixel for shine through in that yellow greebly. And along the side here, in this particular install, I've got a Kims Cantina 4 neopixel accent ring. It's very small. It's smaller than a neopixel, but it fits perfectly here. And that was the perfect size for that circular blue gem or greebly along the side of the grip. I also wanted to get some abalone in this chassis. This being an Old Republic hilt, I wanted it to look a little bit more classy. So along one side, I put a channel for some blue abalone inlay. And that's where I put that. I did do some very simple embossing, like SVG embossing along the side here. And then obviously put my greeblies all over the place on the other side. And that's pretty much it, right? So we've got our 28mm speaker at the bottom here. I have a small wire channel here to get my leads from the bottom of the chassis up to this part of the hilt. Proffie board sits in this tray. I mean, there's just there's a shit ton of room in this hilt. Plenty of room for wire management, for me to make my splices, for me to wire up my resistors. All of that sits underneath the Proffie board down in here, right? Kill switch along one side of the chassis, and that's it. Oh, I do need to mention as well. Along the back of the hilt, there is another small blue, like greebly lens, and I have a single white LED in here to allow for some shine through in that. Battery trays here. Up top is where we bring all of our leads. This is a nipple that's secured into the upper part of the hilt, and that is it. Huge chassis though. It's a super long chassis. We're gonna talk about that right now. Let's come up top. So this is the Odin's Wrath from Jawas Junkyard. Really beautiful hilt. It's beautiful. I really like this veneer. So let's talk about this veneer, right? So I've never applied veneer before. This is my first adventure into veneer application. Par for the course for me. Rather than do any kind of research whatsoever, I just started with my application, and I got, I was scared that I was going to crack or tear this veneer, right? Because where the cutouts are for some of these greeblies, like here and here, it's super thin. So I was afraid I was going to crack the veneer. And luckily I didn't. So my buddy Benji at Nerf Customs did a video about applying this very veneer, And because I am so stubborn, I didn't even watch that before putting this on. So that probably would have been the smart decision, but I don't always choose the smart way to do things. And it's bitten me in the ass before. But luckily it didn't this time, right? So beautiful veneer, really, really nice inlay around the outside of the window here. So that abalone, I designed the chassis to have that abalone shine through in this vented area in the grip. So you can see that blue-green abalone down in there. There is that blue lens greebly that I was talking about. Here is that yellow gem greebly. We've got some other really nice aluminum greeblies along the outside here. And here's that, I guess it's a control box. Oops. So I had a battery in there. So I guess this is a control box, but there is a white LED that shines through that little tiny window. You probably can't see it on camera. There it is. So yeah, super, super unique. So obviously I've already got a battery in here. Let's talk about the chassis. Long chassis, super long. So I did a pass of pewter and onyx rub and buff on the outside of this guy. Here is our single neopixel. There is that 4 neopixel array from Kims Cantina. And around the back, there is that single white LED. 28mm speaker at the bottom. This is a Proffie V3. So the Proffie board sits in this tray and it does kind of tuck up underneath that lip and secures in place. So another thing that I needed to figure out with this install were the switches, right? So I think it was Leon from Jawas Junkyard. I think his intention was to use these greeblies as switches. There were indentations on the insides of these to put magnets. I mean, I'm just assuming here. I'm not sure if that was the intention or not. But there's no holes for switches on the upper part of the hilt. So what I did was I created a special mount for brass tactile switches, and that is up underneath the inside of the hilt here. So we've got 2 brass tactiles for switches, which I actually prefer. I'm just not a huge fan of magnetic drop-in plunger switches. I always prefer to actually have a tactile solution or an actual switch solution in a hilt, right? So to use this guy, spring side is your negative. Rest your battery in that battery tray. So this was already on, but there is a kill switch here. There is that 4 neopixel ring, white LED, single neopixel. Slide your grip on. And then you're ready to go. So all of the animations are different for each font in this config. I had to figure out what color mixed with blue makes green, and vice versa with yellow, right? So there is a turbine animation on this guy, animation in that yellow gem, and obviously we've got the white one back here. So yeah, I had to figure out, because this is a blue lens, so you're not going to see which color you're assigning in the neopixel. So I had to figure out, all right, well, which color... Which color mixed with blue makes red, right? And I found out that if you mix magenta with blue, you get red. So there's red. Right. Just a cool little accent. So I really wanted to get these animated on the outside. Okay. I also weathered this hilt, so I just gave it the aluminum black treatment. I also applied the shroud. The shroud was another interesting part about this hilt. The shroud is attached with JB Weld. There are no mounting brackets for the shroud, so that is just held in place with JB Weld. And that's it, right? Lit neopixel emitter. Let's come down to the bottom. Right, so now you can get a better look at that blue window in the back of the hilt. Here's that yellow gem that is lit, and that is the smaller gem that is also lit. If you are looking at the hilt, the left tactile button is your aux, right is your main. So we've got some different animations on all the font configs. This is like a blue color, green, white obviously stays white. This is a 1-inch blade holder. Very, very deep blade holder too, which I appreciate. Rest your blade down in that blade holder. Rest them on those PCB pins. Whoops. There is a set screw along the side of the hilt here. You want to tighten that set screw. You're ready to go. So these have all been set up with color wheel. To access color wheel, you want to hold down main and tap aux. So you want to hold down aux and tap main. When you find a color you like, tap main again. You'll lock that color in. Let's see what else we got.
I'm Cal Kestis.
One more. Oops. All right. Just a really, really solid hilt. It's a beautiful, beautiful hilt, honestly. It, like, looks elegant, I guess is the word that I would think of for this hilt. I mean, I need one now. I need one, so I'm probably going to get one. But I'm also very, very happy with how the chassis came out with this install. So anyhow, enough about me. To the client, thank you very, very much for trusting me with your install. To the viewers, if anyone has any questions about this particular hilt or the install, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.